You know what makes Minot magic to me?
Good friends.
Great people.
It's our downtown.
You can't beat it.
Welcome.
Rediscover.
Rediscover the magic in Minot.
2020 has been a year. So I tell you what, let's focus on something positive. How about a Citizen of the Year? This year for the State of the City, we are going to be looking for one individual who has done magic things in Minot. There's a catch though. I want you to submit the application, or rather the provenance that explains why that this individual deserves the Citizen of the Year award for the City of Minot. So I want you to grab a phone or anything else that you can record on and make your submission. Even if you don't know how to run a camera phone or a recording device, we can certainly help you out right here in the Minot Public Library with some great people that can even teach you a new skill. But you know what? We're going to make this even a little better. The winner of the Citizen of the Year is going to have a $1,000 donation made in their name to their favorite charity right here in Minot. That is all compliments of First International Bank and Trust here of Minot, and even for doing such a great job of making that submission, the person that is submitting the video is going to be given $100 in chamber bucks, courtesy of North Dakota Farmers Union Insurance. So, how do you get those submissions? Well, we'll show you how.
What makes Minot magic for me is the way our community comes together. There is no other community that is able to come back from a setback like Minot.
Good evening. We're going to call this November 4th, 2020 Planning Commissioning meeting to order. Let's start with roll call.
Barnett.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Bollinger. Demakis. Fakin.
Here.
Gates.
Here.
Hochhalter.
Here.
Coop. Here. Leiter. Nestal.
Here.
Offerdahl.
Here.
Sievertson. And Wagonist.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Perfect. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to
to
the
the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to a republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just one little side note here before we get started with item number 3. Just a reminder that if you do come up and speak at the podium, please sign your name and address on the sign-in sheet, and also address the commission with your name and address. And also be aware that this is just merely an advisory committee. These topics that we do make recommendations on today will go in front of City Council at the next City Council meeting. So there's also another opportunity. So with that, let's start with item number 3, approval of the October 6, 2020 minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion by Coop,
So moved. Second. Bauman.
got a motion by Coop.
Somebody did.
Did I hear a second on the phone there? Sorry, I can't hear.
That's kind of quiet.
It's okay.
Bauman? Was that a
Yep.
second by Bauman?
Yeah.
I can barely hear.
Second.
Second by Wiggins.
Second by Wagnus.
Okay. Second by Wiggins.
Okay, motion approved on, oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Buchalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestle,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, moving on, we'll go to item number 4, subdivision, the Bluffs 15th edition. Public hearing request on an application from Derek Blazing, applicant to create a new subdivision from Lot 34, Block 1, the Bluffs addition, and Lot 5, the Bluffs 11th edition, with the intention of selling a portion of Lot 5 to his neighbor. The resulting lots will be known as Lots 1 and 2, the Bluffs 15th edition. Hand it over to staff for the report.
All right. So this one is just a simple lot line adjustment between the two neighbors. So looking at this first aerial view, Lot 5, this is actually one that was from the Bluffs 11th edition we had go through last October. So with that, the entire back portion of Lot 5, they acquired it as part of that, and now they're handing over to their neighbor that's at Lot 34. So this is an aerial view of how it will look once the lot line adjustment's actually made. So it's two much more nice, kind of even-looking lots. So both lots are still R1. The future land use is still very low-density residential. Staff hasn't seen a reason to have that change at all. There's simple lot line adjustments. So here's the preliminary plat showing how it's going to look again with that. And yeah, findings of fact. They've submitted a complete application. The applicant's request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, meets all the bulk requirements of the zoning ordinance, and Planning Commission has the authority to hear this case and recommend it be approved or denied to City Council. So staff recommendations, staff recommends that Planning Commission adopt the staff findings of fact and recommend approval of this preliminary plat subject to the following conditions to City Council. And that's just the boilerplate. No later than 6 months, you have to go and get the final plat submitted to City Council, have it be recorded. Right, if you have any other questions, or any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the commissioners for the staff? Any questions? With that, we'll open up the public hearing. The public hearing, is there anybody opposed against this agenda item? Anybody in the public opposed? Anybody for this agenda item? Anybody for and against this agenda item? With that, we'll close the public hearing. We'll open up for a motion.
Motion
This
to,
is Bauman, move to approve based on staff recommendations and finding of fact.
Motion by Bauman,
Second, Holcalter.
second from Holcalker. With that, we'll go to roll call.
Okay. Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestal,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
yes.
Okay.
Motion passes. Item number 5, subdivision, The Bluffs, 16th edition. Public hearing request on the application from Travis Irwin, applicant to consolidate lots 33, 34, Block 1, The Bluffs, 2nd edition, and Lot 26, The Bluffs, 7th edition, into 2 new lots to be known as Lots 1 and 2, The Bluffs, 16th edition. Report from staff.
Okay, so this is another simple one. It's a lot, they're absorbing a lot that was deeded over to 2 of the adjacent property owners. In this case, it is Lot 34, shown here in green on the aerial view. So that lot, a couple months ago, was deeded over to the owners of Lot 1 and Lot 2, which are Lot 26 of Bluff 7th Edition and Lot 33 of Bluff's 2nd. So that's already been deeded over, and this whole subdivision here is just designed to go and formalize it and get that lot that's been deeded over split up as it should be. So in this case, the zoning is still R1. The future land use map still shows it as very low density residential, and staff has not seen a reason to go and change that. So here's the preliminary plat for it, just once again showing that where the new lots are going to be. Let's see, findings of fact, same as before. They've submitted a complete application. Per staff's analysis, we find that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It meets all the bulk requirements of the ordinance, and the Planning Commission has the authority to recommend approval or denial to City Council in this case. Findings of fact, or the recommendations, sorry. The recommendations are that City staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the staff findings of fact and recommend approval of this preliminary plat application subject to the following conditions to City Council. And again, it's that they have 6 months to go and get the final subdivision design approved by City Council and submitted to be recorded. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions for the staff on this agenda item? Any questions? That will open up to the public hearing. Is anybody opposed to this agenda item in the public? Anybody opposed? Is anybody for this agenda item in the public? Anybody for or against? That will close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Motion to approve based on staff finding of fact and recommendations and conditions.
Motion by Wagnus,
Second.
second by Coop. Call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestal,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes,
and Wagonist.
Yes.
Okay.
motion has passed. Agenda item number 6, subdivision. Jonarson's 2nd edition, public hearing request on an application from Trent Kuhn, applicant to replot Lot 6, Jonarson's subdivisions of lots 8, 9, and 10 of Hecker's 2nd edition to include an adjacent abandoned alleyway. The resulting property will be known as Lot 1, Johnerson's Second Edition. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'd like to introduce to everyone the city's new principal planner, John Van Dyke. John comes to us from the city of Mandan, where he spent the last 3 years as their principal planner. He started working for us about 3 weeks ago here. We're excited to have him on board, and this will be his first staff report, so take it easy on him. Thank you.
Press the button on the stand.
Okay. Now can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. All right. So as far as the location of the subject property, it's on the southwest of the intersection of Valley Street and Hiawatha. Largely surrounds what you see here, the Lot 1, 5,900 square foot lot, and the adjacent alleyway that meanders to the southeast. It's 15 foot wide. As you'll see, staff is also recommending that we include what's delineated as lots 4 and 5, surrounded in red, to be included on the plats, typical for vacations, to ensure that we have all the adjacent requisite signatures on the plat, acknowledging that this is how the vacated alleyway will be divvied up. As I can't really speak to how this came about. As you can see, there's a little bit, there's an 8-foot stretch northeast of Lot 1, further to the south, and another one to the west. So there's just a few little strips, but they're not occupied with city infrastructure. So the applicant submitted a complete application, aligns with the comp plan, and meets all the bulk requirements of the zoning ordinance, and the Planning Commission has the authority to hear the case, and recommend that it be approved or denied. Staff recommendations and conditions. So there's a few conditions here. Staff's recommending a utility access easement for private utilities in the event that they are located underground within that 15-foot strip. And then, of course, as I mentioned, all 3 properties abutting the vacated alley would be required to be shown on the final plat. The signatures from the owners of all 3 properties inherently would be required to be on the final plat as well. And then the language effectively stating that we'd need a recordable version of the plat to be submitted to engineering and city for presentation before city council. So standard language. Otherwise, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, John, and I wanted to welcome you as well to the city of Minot, and looking forward to working with you. So with
Thank
that,
you.
I'll open it up for any questions from the commissioners. Any questions? All right, we'll open it up to a public hearing. Is there anybody opposed to this agenda item number 6? Anybody opposed? Anybody for this agenda item number 6? Anybody for or against this item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Commissioner Bauman, move to approve based on staff recommendations, conditions, and finding of fact.
Motion by Bauman.
Second, Gates.
Second, Gates. Okay, with that, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Burkhalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestle,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes,
and Wagonist.
Yes.
Okay.
motion pass. Moving on to item number 7 under our agenda, a conditional use permit, Prairie Green Edition, North 100 of Lot 25. Public hearing request on an application from Larissa Ronyak, the Bark Porch applicant for a conditional use permit to operate a doggy daycare. This property is located at 3001 7th Street Southwest. Go ahead and open it up for staff.
Vice Chair Alfredall, Commissioners. So this is a vicinity map. Location of the proposed site is just northeast of 31st Avenue Southwest and 7th Street Southwest. And here's an aerial view of the existing structure and surrounding area. The current zoning is C2, General Commercial. The tan color is the R3B, Multifamily Residential. Current land uses, so in green, surrounded in green, would be the proposed doggy daycare site. You can see surrounded in blue is the multifamily residential building. So you'll notice one of them is zoned C2 as well. It's a multifamily structure. The one in yellow to the south of the subject property is a radio station. And then there's a veterinarian to the northwest. Those are the immediate adjacent uses. Here's the subject property. Future land use map. It's a little wonky. It's off just as far as the delineation aligning with our existing property boundaries versus when they created the future land use map. So obviously the red is commercial, and then a little bit to the north is that medium density residential. And here is a site plan. The majority of the work is largely retrofitting the existing structure to accommodate this use. The existing floor plans to the top of the screen, and the proposed site plan is to the south. There is a fenced area to the right on the screen, which would be also to the east of the structure there. So it aligns. It's all north will be up in this case as well. Parking spaces, so there'll be 12, one of them being an accessible parking space, be included. As far as public comments go, this is a late comment that we received that was not sent to you. Others we received were already forwarded on to you for review, and I'll give a brief summary over them. A large number of them surround the potential for noise stemming from the outdoor areas, the fenced area, as noted on the site plan. The applicants indicated that this would be largely used for bathroom purposes only, and not as a recreational area for the animals. So staff has included some conditions, working in conjunction with the applicant and addressing concerns of neighboring property owners, have attempted to come up with some conditions that would take care of the noise problem that may be created. So here's some findings of fact. I'll go over those conditions in a minute. The applicant has submitted a complete application. Proposed uses are conditionally permitted by the terms of the ordinance and are subject to conditions of approval. Again, I'll go over those a little bit later. Per the staff's analysis of the case, the applicant's request is consistent with Minot's comp plan, as I showed you before. The request meets the bulk requirements of the zoning ordinance. Further, so this request meets the additional standards required by section 30-3C related to conditional use permits with the following conditions of approval. So these are the conditions that staff has worked with the applicant to address some of the concerns of the neighboring property owners. So an 8-foot site obscuring fence shall be installed surrounding the fenced area per the site plan. I want to make sure it's not just a 6-foot, that it's not just a non-site obscuring, chain link fence, just to reduce the line of sight from the animals. So the fence shall be constructed with materials of either wood, vinyl, or slatted chain link. The hours of operation are restricted to between 6:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. And animal waste shall be disposed of in a timely and sanitary manner. Pea gravel would be placed within the fenced area per the site plan and would be sanitized routinely as needed to remove odors. Minot Planning Commission has authority to hear the case and recommend that it be approved or denied. The public notice requirements were met, and so on and so forth. So staff recommendations, including the 3 conditions of approval, that the parking lot be paid to fit the 12 parking spaces denoted, one of which being the accessible van parking space. Also, common language would be substantial construction needs to occur within 1 year of being issued the permit, if they're issued a permit. Otherwise, the conditional use permit will expire, and they'll have to come back through the process. Any amendment to the conditional use permit would require coming back through the process. So staff will stand for questions.
Okay, with that, I got just one quick question. Is there any stipulation, is it Monday through Friday, or is it 7 days a week? Did they talk about that at all?
Vice Chair Offerdahl, no days of week that that we restricted specifically, and I don't recall within the letter of intent that was submitted by the applicant, but I'm fairly certain they are here to answer that.
Okay, perfect. With that, I'll open up the floor for any other questions from the commissioners. Any other questions at this time? Okay, we'll close that. We'll open up the public hearing. Public hearing. Anybody opposed to this agenda number 7? Go ahead, sir. Come on up to the podium if you can. Sign your name and your address, and also state it in the mic.
I own the building. I own the building right to the north of that. Within about 30 feet of that building, I have 18 bedrooms. So the dog noise is going to be an effect on my tenants there. The other factor about this lot is 6 feet higher than the lot I have. I've had a water issue there since day one, since they built on that property, as they're using my lot as the drainage on it. Needless to say, with dogs and everything else and rainy climates, that type of thing, it's going to affect my property there also. The other problem on there, that's a very narrow street and it's had an awful lot of traffic. And there's just no place for cars on that street. I guess I'm totally against it because of, I've got 36 bedrooms within 75 feet of that building. And there's got to be a commercial lot that you can put that business on somewhere else. There's no need to put that in a residential area. That building I have is zoned R3B. It's not commercial.
So just for quick reference here, the address that you're speaking of, you're 2901, is that correct?
I'm 2901, right.
Okay, thank you. And what was your name again, sir?
First name is Kerry, Kerry, and the last name's Finnes, Fines.
Okay.
I submitted a letter to you folks on it and was asked to attend the meeting, so.
Okay.
But there's a couple other residential or rental properties in the area that I've talked to the fellow from Creative Properties, and he was going to attend tonight. I don't know if he's here or not. I don't know him personally, but he was not in favor of it either. And the owner of that building is in Arizona. So he was representing him for the management company that, it's just hearsay at this point. But I really, really don't think we need, I don't know if we're talking 10 dogs, 50 dogs, 100 dogs, I don't know. But we don't need those in a residential neighborhood. We have enough issues with tenants.
Okay. Any other questions for Kerry from the commissioners? You got any other questions for us, sir?
If you're familiar with 7th Street out there, it's a very narrow street.
Okay.
And there's a fair amount of automobiles parked on it. I just went on Google Earth this afternoon, and between my building and that building, I think there was 5 vehicles sitting on the street.
Okay.
I mean, I can't say anything about the building involved, that type of thing, but I don't like the idea of the drainage. I don't like the idea of having the dogs there. And
Okay.
I have quite a few children in the building. They're 3-bedroom apartments, so I have a tendency to get more families in there.
Okay. And some of the questions you'd asked about the number of dogs and stuff, we'll probably let the, ma'am, some of the questions you asked about how many dogs were going to be in that park, we can let her answer that, and then you can come
Okay.
back up if you got any additional questions, if that
Okay.
works.
There's got to be better commercial building than in a residential neighborhood. I think you're just asking for problems having it that close.
Okay,
Okay?
take that in consideration. Thank you. Anybody else opposed to this agenda item? Anybody opposed? Okay. Anybody for this? You state your name and your address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Laura Saraniak. I'm the owner of the Bark Porch right now here in town. My physical address is 3451 12th Avenue North, Belva. The address of my operation right now is 1717 South Broadway. So, do you guys just ask me questions, or you guys just want me to talk?
Well, I would say, I guess the first question I would have is just basically give us the scope of your work, like your hours of operation,
Sure.
how many, just to give everybody an idea of what we're talking about here.
Okay, so currently right now our hours of operation are Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday and Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and one Saturday a month, 9 to 3. Currently, we've been open since 2018. We were fastly growing and became very popular in this town. Currently right now we are booked all of 2021. We currently only offer grooming services at this time. A lot of our clients already treat us like a daycare, if that makes sense. Lots of clients drop off their dogs before they go to work and then pick up either on their lunch or when they're done with their work for the day. So dogs and cats, I should say, I'm sorry. They're already in our care, sometimes 8, sometimes longer. We do make exceptions if and when emergencies and things like that come up, they are longer in our care. The main issue with where we're at right now is we don't have the ability to let dogs go outside and use the bathroom. That is our biggest concern. So dogs are kept cooped up in a kennel, all separated from each other, and either have to hold it or they have an accident and then we're rebathing and regrooming throughout the day. We don't like that to happen, neither do the pet parents. It causes unwanted stress, unwanted anxiety in dogs. That's why a lot of dogs tend to have issues, is because they're kept in a confined area for so long. Granted, plenty of us probably do crate our dogs at home. I know that's how I trained my dog, but she doesn't currently sit in a crate all day now, but a lot of our clients do. With moving into a bigger location, and there was already a fence on the back of that property right now. They had tore it down, and my plan is to put an 8-foot tall fence to keep privacy and things like that. Not only so dogs can't see out, but people can't see in. With that fence, we are putting a concrete mow strip underneath to help with drainage and things like that. I didn't realize there was an issue with that with the building. So we are planning on doing that. If you ask how many dogs come in and out of my building a day, anywhere from 30 to 40, in and out. That's with like parking. If people are concerned about parking or traffic, my clients come in intervals. There's usually anywhere from 4 to 6 people coming in right at 7, and then at 7:30, and then 8, and throughout the whole day, in and out. We have a very quick and thorough check-in and check-out process. The only time it usually takes longer than 5 minutes to check in is if you're a new client. We have lots of questions we have to ask. We have to go over what type of style you're looking for, safety of the pet, shot records, and things like that. Pickup, fairly easy. And actually, as horrible as it sounds, COVID's made it even easier for us, so we don't have 30 people in our building at one time. We have 1, and their dog going out and exiting, and the next client coming in. So that's actually benefited my industry a lot, having to slow down the traffic coming in. But checkout process, super quick. People are never sitting in the parking lots. People rarely show up before we call them or text them a photo of their dog, letting them know that they're ready for pickup. With doing this, the dogs aren't going to be outside. Don't think of a kennel. I don't want to do that. There's so much unwanted stress and noise. If you guys think dogs are loud, try being in a grooming room and listening to them bark. We don't like it any more than you do. We like it to keep it very quiet and very small. And that's another reason why our traffic of in and out of the building is so quick. We don't want dogs sitting there all day unless they absolutely have to. But having an area where 2 can go out at a time to, use the restroom, stretch their legs, run around, and then come inside the building. In the new floor plan, you'll see where it says large dog room and small dog area. That's where the dogs are going to be kept. There's also an area that says kennel room right to the north of that. That's where dogs sit currently right now in my establishment, in kennels. So this is giving them the ability to get out and play. As far as how many dogs would be allowed in the daycare, it's mainly for our clients that are there for grooming. But this is also going to open up opportunities for people traveling from out of town for medical appointments, hair appointments or seeing family, even doing shopping or checking out new restaurants, they can drop their dog off for an hour or two and not leave it in their running car or in a hotel room. This gives them the opportunity to not only visit Minot, but also stop somewhere with their dog and let them play for a little bit, especially when it's 30 below and the Bark Park is unavailable. So that is our main goal. We're already a very established business when it comes to grooming. We've been here, like I said, since 2018. We're just wanting to, really the ability to let dogs go outside, not stay outside all day long barking and running. Nobody wants that. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions or statements for the commissioners?
I don't believe so. Do you guys have anything for me?
Any questions for Larissa? Is that your name?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I missed what you said about drainage, addressing the drainage.
The drainage, okay, so.
Possibility that was mentioned earlier.
Right, and I did not realize that was an issue with the property. Now, looking at it, I'm a ranch owner as well, so yes, I do realize stuff is going to flow downhill. I am putting a concrete barrier underneath the entire fence line. That should help detour some of that, I would think. Like I said, dogs aren't gonna be out there 24/7. I know, like in the letter of intent and what this gentleman had spoke about, our hours of operation being 6:30 to 7. I don't even know if I wanna be open till 7 PM. We're already there at 7 AM, so we would like to check in dogs earlier if possible. But being open that late, no. But I'm hoping that the concrete underneath would help with drainage. I would definitely look into other options as well.
And that's with the addition of the pea gravel that was mentioned as well?
Yep, pea gravel, and even that with sanitation and stuff like that, that's going to be the easiest. Honestly, in the future, what I want to put out there, not AstroTurf, I can't think of what it's called. It's not a golf field, it's rubber. That's about the only product you can actually sanitize in between animals to the fullest. Pea gravel is gonna be your easiest. Sand, dirt, regular gravel, it's just gonna be a muddy, muddy mess. And I work very closely with other actual doggy daycares, Kayla's Canine Adventures, Country Paws. We share clients. Our clients all have a mutual problem. When their dog goes to daycare, it gets covered in dirt and mud and smells because of all the other dogs. Having an indoor capability for that is going to make a lot of people happy in this town.
Did that answer your question?
Um,
Go ahead.
Alicia Gates, I have a question. Will the animals be limited to how many animals are outside at a time? Will they be supervised? Is there a time limit on how long they're going to be out there?
Yes, yes to all of those. After talking with other daycares here, and then I also had lived elsewhere, I've seen huge operations of daycares and things like that. First off, we would have a meet and greet. No dogs can go back out there without going through certain stipulations and requirements, including requirement of all shots and vaccinations to help cut down on any sort of diseases going back and forth. Our plan, what we are thinking as of right now, as far as big dogs, we're thinking anywhere from 4 to 6 at a time, and small dogs anywhere from 6 to 8. So you got to remember, 30 to 40 dogs, sometimes more, are already coming through my building a day. Are they all there at the same time? No, ma'am. With having the daycare being available, there could be 30 dogs there all at one time, absolutely. But it doesn't mean that they're all outside or they're all in the daycare area. They would also think like human daycare. There's nap time, there's lunchtime. Same thing would happen with that, so that not all of the dogs are outside running around together and just causing havoc. And yes, you said something about supervision. Yes, for every 2 dogs, there would be 1 employee.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Anybody else for this agenda item? Anybody else in the public for this agenda item? Anybody for or against? You raise your hand there, Carrie. Do you got
I have a question.
You can step up to the podium, please, so we can hear you at the microphone. Sorry, sir.
We had a picture of the plot plan up here. If you could bring that up again.
Is this a picture?
Yep, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
If you look, easiest over here. If you look right here, we're talking a fenced area. That's not going to be fenced because this thing drops 6 feet. So it's not part of what we see.
Okay.
That's just the way the lot is.
So you're saying from that fenced area right there, there's a 6-foot slope?
Not from the fenced area she shows there. The fenced area would have to be farther back up.
Closer to the building?
Right.
Okay.
That building is, that building, I believe, is 42 feet wide. The parking lot is 37 feet wide. So you got 21 feet on the north side of that building, and if you figure going 6 feet like this here, how much of that lot do you miss? And how much drainage are you gonna have going down on that lot? I've made attempts to stop the water before on it. They're still there. I just spent $25,000 on eliminating the erosion that I get off that building because of the lack of the gutters on the north side, because of the water coming down on my building. And that's because the city of Minot has a plan. When you build something, you're supposed to have a drainage plan. There's no drainage plan there.
Any questions for Carrie here from the commissioners? Thank you, sir.
I mean, I've had that building since 1997.
Okay.
So I have some history with it. In 2019, when we had all the rain, it was ugly there because I ended up with water in apartments there because there was so much that came down off that hill. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
This is Commissioner Barnett. I do have a question, if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
My question is for the owner of the apartment complex. Are there dogs do they allow dogs and cats and animals in the apartment complex? And if so, approximately how many would he say resides in the apartment complex?
The way rental is in today's day and age, you have to go to a doctor and just say, I need a special use dog or whatever, and you can't restrict it. So you do have dogs and cats in there. I'm going to guess right now I might have 2 in the building. And by the way, I have a 14-year-old lab myself. I'm not against dogs. I'm just against dogs in this situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody, again. Larissa Roniak here. I know what he's talking about as far as that hill. My fence is not going to go down that hill. As far as I'm concerned, how it was told, the outlet was laid to me, I don't own that hill. He does. I'm only building where his existing fence was, which is, I don't have the measurements in front of me. It's only like 6 feet off of the building, maybe not even that much. The drawing here looks huge, but it's really not that far. It only goes as wide as the landscaping around the building. So maybe 3 feet? I don't know. I don't have the exact measurements in front of me. I didn't know that was going to be a question for that. And I'm glad that other commissioner brought up about dogs in the building. The apartment building to the east of me is also dog friendly. We've seen them running into the parking lot that I'm currently hoping to purchase as well. And then the pet parade, people across the street, I do fully understand they don't want people thinking that the noise coming possibly from my building is coming from them. But we also have to remember Core Animal Clinic is also directly across the street from me as well. And they have animals 24/7, all night long barking. And they're right next to an apartment complex as well that is also dog friendly. So all apartment complexes that are surrounding my proposed idea are pet friendly, I should say. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Larissa while she's up here, commissioners? Any questions on the phone? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else opposed or for this agenda item in the public? Anybody for or against? With that, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of the director or the planner, please?
Sure, Commissioner Wagner.
Get there? I'm just curious if it'd be reasonable to add a condition on an acceptable drainage plan for, I don't know, I would assume the engineer would take care of that. Is that unreasonable, or is that possible?
Vice Chair Offerdahl, Commissioner Wiggins. Sure, if Lance is available online, I know he's joining us via Teams. If he could chime in.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna let him answer that question.
Thank you.
With regard to the stormwater plan for this site, whether or not it was required, and yeah, take it away, Lance.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, this area was platted and developed long before the city had stormwater management regulations. Most of those regulations came into effect starting in about 2006. So this area isn't going to have those same sort of regulations. So completely understand what the neighboring property owner is concerned about. In this sort of situation, what we would encourage is that those property owners work together and come up with a solution. Maybe that's installing rain gutters on that portion of the building that drains to the north, excuse me, and then trying to redirect that water towards 7th Street. Just looking at the existing contours for the area, and they're not the tell-all just because they're plus or minus about 6 inches, but it looks to me as the south half of the building plus the concrete parking lot would drain towards 7th Street. Likely the yard area and the north half of the building would drain north onto the gentleman's property, and then it looks like it wants to keep going north and then eventually makes its way to 7th Street. So as far as a plan, to me, when I look at this is more of a private property issue between the two. They would have to work through that. There's not much the city of Minot can really do about it. If the neighbors are concerned about, pet waste and that kind of thing and the runoff associated with that, I think as long as the property owners are taking care of that waste like other responsible pet owners and business owners would do, I don't see that as a tremendous concern. But I think that's something that the commission should take into account when they're looking at this application item. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any other questions for city engineer or city planner? Thank you, Lance. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
With that, we're back at opening it up for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve based on staff finding of fact and recommendations and conditions.
Motion by Wagoness. You got a motion to approve? Second. Looking for a second. Second by Coop. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add, I mean, I hear Carrie's concerns and I don't disagree, but I think the drainage, the noise, the smells, all those things are covered, I believe, under the conditional use permit. And if issues are building or not working out or something, can be addressed. It's not forever, those types of things. So I think it's addressed through the conditional use permit. And that's the purpose of my motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion?
Commissioner Bauman here, and this might be late in asking this question, but for Mr. Billingsley, I'm wondering, do we have anything in our zoning code right now thinking that the building in question is zoned C2 and then R3B, a different and more residential zoning type is abutting it? Does the CUP kick in any buffer requirements between the zoning areas?
Thank you. This is Principal Planner John Van Dyke. Right, so the nature of the conditional use permit is effectively acknowledging that certain uses within a specific district may not be appropriate in all locations within the district. And so that's where you take into consideration the adjacency of the existing uses or adjacent zones, the potential future development. In this case, we're attempting to address noise, potential odors, things of that nature, and that's where those conditions come into play. And so it's all part of the context of this application. So that's why it's not just simply an allowed use. It's coming before this planning commission to determine whether or not the conditions that staff has come up with and any additional information that you've heard through the public hearing process, if those conditions are adequate to mitigate those negative externalities that are spilling over into the adjacent properties. So if there's any amendments to those conditions or changes or anything of that nature, I mean, I think that's valid to discuss to determine if whether or not staff's recommendations are sufficient.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask maybe a more clarifying question, and I'm sorry if the first one wasn't super clear. But going from C2 to a residential zone, typically the C2 owner would be required to do a buffer zone or a buffer barrier of some capacity. And I don't really see anything to that extent. Does that apply here, or am I misunderstanding kind of the use of buffer zones?
Vice Chair Offerdahl, Commissioner, thanks for clarifying. Yes, so this is not new construction. The vast majority of the work is rehab of the existing structure. Really, the only extension would be this fence that is proposed as part of the fenced yard area. And that does not kick in a building permit that would warrant changes to the existing structure. It's not an expansion of sufficient size. And again, it's not new construction. That would apply to all new constructions. This is an existing site with an existing structure. I hope that answers that question.
Or possibly for rezoning it to C2, but it is already C2, correct?
Correct.
Correct, so that's why, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
Any other conversation or discussion? Questions, concerns? With that, call the roll.
Barnett.
Barnett, yes.
Bauman.
Yes.
Fagan.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Buchalter.
Yes.
Coop.
Yes.
Nestle.
Yes.
Offerdahl.
Yes.
And Wagonist.
Yes.
All right, motion approved.
Motion approved. Agenda item number 8. Agenda number 8, Outlook Plot, Zone Change and Comprehensive Plan, Future Land Use Amendment, Outlot 1, Section 10-154-83. Public hearing request on an application from Brad Abel, applicant, to plot an outlot from a unplotted portion of the northeast quarter of Section 10-15 or 154 North-83 West, to be known as Outlot 1 of Section 10-15 or 154 North, 83 West, and rezone the resulting property from AG to public for a family cemetery for private use. Additionally, the future land use map of this comprehensive plan is going to be amended from RA to cemetery. This property is located at the unplatted portion of the northeast quarter of Section 10-154 North-83 West. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. This case is, again, as it stated, it's a request for an outlot plat, a future land use map amendment, and a rezone. The outlot plat is required by state law. The applicant is proposing a small family cemetery to be located on this property. The future land use map amendment is required because the property is planned for medium-density residential use. There is a land use category on the future land use map called cemetery. We also have public and semi-public on there as well. So the applicant is requesting to be amended to cemetery from agriculture on the future land use map. And then the rezone, it would go from agriculture to public. There are only two zoning classifications in our zoning ordinance that allows cemeteries, and that would be the public zone, and then the second one would be the C2 general commercial zone. So when we had a DRT meeting on this proposal a little over a month ago, where we invited representatives from the City Council and the Planning Commission. We talked about that with the applicant. The applicant really didn't really care which zoning classification they wanted to go to. They just want to get the cemetery established in this location. Staff felt it was probably best to go to the public zone because that remote of an area is a really odd place to be putting C2 zoning. So the public zone does allow it. One thing I want to let the commissioners know is when we're cleaning up our zoning ordinance right now, we're hoping that it'll be ready for adoption by next spring. And one of the things we changed in there is we're going to allow cemeteries in agricultural zone as a conditional use from now on, if that is approved. So that would take away the requirement for rezoning in the future out in the ag zone. So I want to show the property to you here. It's actually, I went the wrong way, didn't I?
Yeah. No?
Nope, maybe you have the wrong one in here, Peter.
Oh,
But it's on the west side of 16th Street Southwest. It's roughly about 1,000 feet or so to the west of that road. It's in Southwest Minot, near the intersection of 54th Avenue Southwest. So it's in the outer reaches of our 2-mile jurisdiction. So the area is an agricultural area. It's planned and zoned that way right now. As you can see, there's our current zoning map. We have ag there. We have a little bit of resident R1 to the far northeast there. Here's our future land use map, where we have the medium density residential zoning in orange. We have some neighborhood commercial in pink, some public and semi-public over to the over on the east side of 54th Street Southwest. And we also have a little bit of low density residential and very low density residential future land uses in this vicinity as well. Staff did check the future land use map in our comprehensive plan, and we didn't find that the cemetery site would interfere with any future streets or roadways, major roadways that are proposed in our comprehensive plan. This is the outlot plat that's required by state law. It's the outlot is only about a 1/4 acre in size. It's approximately 77 feet wide on the south end, 48 feet wide on the north end, and it's roughly about 155 feet deep. So I spoke to the applicant's surveyor this afternoon. He estimates that there would be no more than maybe 40 burial plots that could be placed in here. It's very small. So if they ever wanted to expand this and turn this into a big major cemetery, they're going to have to come back for more entitlement approvals and platting approvals as well from the city. So this is going to be a small burial plot mostly just for family members, I would imagine. We did receive one public comment through the portal system here, and it was a property owner who lives out of state, and I believe he might have thought it might have been a major cemetery where we were building there, but basically he couldn't believe that we would be approving a cemetery in a residential neighborhood. He was concerned about property values. There's some residential uses are planned in that neighborhood for the future, but at least if they are planned, we can at least plan around the cemetery. So again, this owner lives out of state. I was not able to speak to him directly. I think we just received this comment just within the last day or two. But that is the only comment we did receive through the portal on this case. The findings of fact for this case is the applicant has submitted a complete application, and we've reviewed the comprehensive plan, and it's consistent with the plan. It meets all of our bulk requirements in our zoning ordinance, and that the Planning Commission has authority to hear this case and make the recommendation in this situation. The Planning Commission does not make the final decision, the City Council will. We did legally notice this, as you can tell by the comment we received. We sent out all the mailing notices and published a legal public hearing notice in the local newspaper. The staff recommendation is to approve the outlot plat, the rezoning, and the future land use map amendment. And then the first condition that we have here is basically a boilerplate condition requiring that the plat be recorded within 6 months and so on. We do this for all plats that come through the city. And then the second one is that the location of the burial site shall be limited to those shown on the exhibit in the outlot plat. And I believe that is the last condition. Yes, it is. So I'm available to answer your questions if you have any.
Any questions for the city staff? Any questions? With that, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody opposed to this agenda item number 8? Want to speak on behalf? Anybody opposed? Anybody for this agenda number 8 that would like to speak? Anybody for or against? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I look for a motion.
Motion to approve based on staff finding of fact, conditions.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Wagnes.
Commissioner Bauman, second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bauman. Discussion. Any discussion? No discussion? That, go to roll call.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
No.
Buckhalter,
Yeah.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestle,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
Yes.
All right, the yeses have it.
Motion approved. Moving on to agenda item number 9, conditional use permit and zone changed. Highlander Estates, second edition, lots 1, 2, 4, and 8, public hearing request on the application by Blue Ridge Properties LLC and Highlander Office Park LLC. Applicants to rezone lots 1, 2, 4, and 8, Highlander Estates, second edition, from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District. Additionally, the applicants are also applying for a conditional use permit on Lot 8 for a car wash. These properties are located at 2050, 2051, 2250, and 2251 36th Avenue Southwest. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Before you this evening is a request for a CUP and rezoning just across the street from the new Trinity Hospital site on 37th Avenue Southwest. The 4 properties you see on the vicinity map that have the blue hatch line are proposed to be rezoned from C2, or proposed to be rezoned from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C2 General Commercial. And the conditional use permit is proposed on the lot that's outlined in red. And the conditional use permit is for a car wash In the C2 zone, a car wash is required to have a conditional use permit if there are other uses on the lot, which in this case, there's a couple of different uses, including a gas station and a convenience store. So here's an aerial view of the site that's zoomed in a little bit more here. Again, the conditional use permit, the gas station will, and the car wash will be on the lot outlined in red. The other lots, they're proposing to rezone those. There are no development plans on those lots at this time. Wanted to show you the current zoning map. And to the east and to the south, we have C2 zoning right now. To the north, we have R2 zoning. So it's not R1, it's R2. So you usually want to have the C1 adjacent to the R1 zone for sure, but we have the R2 and R3 to the north. We have a little bit of ag to the south as well. That's unplatted at this time. Again, the 4 lots are proposed to be rezoned. 3 of them are outlined in the green line, and the 4th is outlined in the red line. We also look at our future land use map when we consider rezonings, and this whole area is planned for general mixed use. This subdivision was platted not that long ago. They were assigned R1 or C1 zoning at that time in a general mixed use zone. As staff reviewed this application and considered it, we thought that and Lance Meyer can probably talk about this in more detail. We're not really going to be allowing access off of 37th Avenue Southwest because of all the traffic that's expected by the hospital. So these lots are platted in a manner so that way they can take access off of 36th Avenue Southwest. Let's see a little bit to the northeast there, you'll see some commercial at the very northeast, and then to the northwest, there's some very low density residential to the northwest. And of course, the hospital is to the south, and that's under construction right now. This is a proposed site plan. We require site plans and all conditional use permits. This is the site plan that was submitted to us for the lot on the corner of 37th Avenue Southwest and 23rd Street Southwest. The uses that are on this property are a convenience store, a gas station. There's also a fast food restaurant, and then the car wash. And the reason the conditional use is required for the car wash is to make sure that the car wash does not interfere with the operations of the other uses on the property. So you'll see the car wash is on the north end of the property. It's connected to the convenience store, but you'll notice that the traffic, the line of traffic that will go into the car wash will not be interfering with other uses on that property. It's designed in a manner where it's away from the gas pumps and the fast food restaurants. It's not going to be interfering with those uses. The red line you see running through the map is the NAWS easement water line. We've been told there's a 30-foot easement along both 37th Avenue Southwest and 23rd Street Southwest, where no new construction is allowed, not even signage. I mean, we can put parking there, but no buildings of any kind, no signs of any kind can be placed there, no landscaping either. So the applicant has worked out an agreement with us to put additional landscaping elsewhere within the property to make up for the landscaping that would not be allowed along 37th Avenue Southwest because of that easement. And we will work with them to make sure that they still meet all of our requirements for a landscaping ordinance to make up for the hardships that we have by that sewer, the water line easement running through both sides of their property, the south and the west sides. So the findings of fact in this case is the applicant has submitted a complete application, and the proposed uses are conditionally permitted by the terms of the ordinance and subject to the conditions of approval. Per staff's analysis, the applicant's request is consistent with our comprehensive plan. It meets our bulk requirements of our zoning ordinance, and the request is in character of the surrounding zoning and use of land. We've approved Trinity Hospital in that neighborhood. We have approved Southwest Crossing with an assisted living facility and other residential and commercial land uses in that neighborhood as well. The Planning Commission has authority to hear this case and decide whether they recommend to approve or deny it, and that the hearing was properly posted and noticed under North Dakota state law. Our recommendations for you, our first recommendation comes from the engineering department. They want a site plan, stormwater management plan. It has to conform to the existing plan on file or submit a modification for review and conform to the NAWS easement requirements. Sewer connection fees will apply. Access must be from 36th Avenue Southwest only, and the locations must be approved by the traffic engineer. Sidewalks are required on 36th Avenue Southwest and 23rd Street Southwest. So they will be required to build sidewalks along both streets there per the recommendation of the engineering department. And Lance, after I'm finished, you're welcome to chime in if you want to add anything to that as well. Conditions 2, 3, 4, and 5 are taken directly from city code. These are requirements for the car wash. So the applicant will have to meet these requirements at all times. The car wash shall be designed to be an integral part of the building or freestanding, constructed of the same materials and design of the principal structure. The site shall provide stacking spaces for the car wash. The amount of stacking space shall take into account the type of car wash and the amount of time it takes to wash the vehicle. We did have a DRT with the applicant, and we talked about that with them, and they made sure that they had enough stacking space there to meet the amount of time it takes to wash vehicles. Stacking space shall not interfere with the parking spaces or traffic circulation, which in this case it does not, because they placed it on the far north end of the property, and it does not interfere with the other uses in the area. Number 4, the exit from the car wash shall have a drainage system which is subject to approval by the city and gives special consideration to the prevention of ice buildup during winter months. And number 5, neither the car wash nor an accessory vacuum shall be located within 300 feet of any residentially zoned or guided property unless completely screened by intervening buildings or located across an arterial or major collector roadway from residentially zoned or guided property. So the applicant understands that they have to meet that requirement as well, or else they will not be able to have vacuums on the site. The other conditions are mostly boilerplate conditions for conditional uses. So, for example, they have to make sure that substantial construction takes place within 1 year of the date of approval of the conditional use permit, or else they'd have to come back and ask for a time extension. And number 7 is if they want to amend the conditional use permit, there's a process involved for amending it for future consideration. And those are all the conditions. Staff recommends approval of the rezone and the CUP, and I am available for your questions if you have any.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff?
This is Commissioner Baumann. I do have a couple questions for Mr. Billingsley.
Okay.
Great. So, Mr. Billingsley, I gave you a heads up on this question too, but would love to just kind of hear you in the public discourse kind of talk about, because this property is already C1 and there are some offices that are already built there, and it's kind of started on the path towards an office park area near a new medical hub. I just want to make sure that in changing the zoning to C2 that it's a necessary and kind of needed change. I know this area is going to grow, and I want to make sure that we are using the best use of that land and kind of creating, good synergy between buildings, a well-designed community, as opposed to just changing the zoning for whoever is wanting to build there next. And I think just kind of looking long range beyond this particular applicant, but making sure that do we need to zone C2? Do we need more C2 properties? Is changing to C2 a positive thing for our community for these particular plots?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioner Baumann, those are some great questions, and I'll be happy to answer them for you right now. C2 zoning in the city is not plentiful. We have plenty of M1 and especially I1 and I2 zoning in our city right now of vacant land that's ready for development. But when it comes to C2, there's not a whole lot. Most of the C2 in the city is along Broadway and Burdick and some of the other major streets like 16th Street Southwest. I did take a closer look at the neighborhood, Commissioner Baumann, and there are a few available properties directly to the east that are C2 right now that you see on the map. One has been bought by Brimmer Bank, and they're building a bank there. The other properties, I'm not sure what their availability is right now. I don't know if there are plans to build there or not, but there are a few vacant properties there. And if you go another mile or so to the east near the Broadway intersection, there are a handful, like maybe 3 properties that are vacant right now that have C2 zoning, but I don't know if they have the size that you need for all these types of uses. So C2 zoning here is not plentiful right now. I believe we can use more of it in the city. I don't know the reason why these properties were platted C1 when they were originally platted a few years ago. We have C2 to the east, we have C2 to the south, so we're not introducing anything that's new to the area. And then if you look, we have the properties on the north side of 36th Avenue Southwest, and we do have the R2 zoning north of there. But again, these would be new construction projects, and as we brought up in that case earlier this evening, new construction, they would have to build the buffering requirements along those lots. So they would have to put those landscape buffers along, on those 2 lots on the north side of 36th Avenue Southwest, and even looking at the developed lot on the northeast side there, this one that's C1, I'm not sure. I'm having a hard time seeing, but I'm not even sure if they have any buffering there. So it might have been done before. Yeah, I don't see any buffering there. But at least under the codes we have now, the 2 lots to the west, they would be required to put the buffering that's required along those lot lines, Commissioner Baumann.
Thank you. And then going further with that zoning or buffering question, I should know this, and I apologize for not knowing it off the top of my head, but the transition from C2 to C1, is there a required buffer strip between those 2 zoning differences?
But Mr. Vice Chairman, Commissioner Baumann, no, there is not. It's only between commercial and residential.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, I think that answers my questions. You answered in the explanation one of the other concerns that I had. I do live in this area, and we regularly take walks on 37th Avenue. And I really want to just publicly say thank you to the planning process of making sure that this does not have access onto 37th directly. That area with the hospital is going to have plenty of traffic as is, and with the rest of the development. I think that's really very wise to make sure that all the traffic goes onto 36th Avenue. So I just want to say thanks for that. I think that was good thinking and planning.
Thank you. Any other questions for city staff? Any other questions? With that, we'll open up the public hearing. Anybody opposed to this agenda item number 9? Anybody opposed? Anybody for this agenda number 9? Anybody for or against? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Move to approve based on staff finding of facts and recommendations and conditions.
Motion by Coop. We have a second. Second by Nesdal. Discussion. Any discussion? All right, no discussion. We'll call the roll.
Barnett?
Sorry about that, guys. I'm here. Barnett, yes.
Yep. That's fine. Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Nestle,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion approved. Moving on to agenda item number 10, outlot plat and zone change, OTL 15, northeast quarter, south 26, 156 north dash 83 west. Public hearing request on the application by Blake and Pamela McKay. Applicants to plat a new outlot to include all of outlot 13 and a portion of the unplatted northeast quarter of section 26-156 north-83 west into a new outlot to be known as Outlot 15 of the northeast quarter, section 26-156 north-83 west for the purpose of installing new rows of trees around the outside perimeter of the property. The resulting property is to be rezoned from AG to RA, to just RA. This property is located at 7009 Highway 83 North. City staff.
Okay, so with this one, this is just a property boundary expansion. So the owner of the property is looking at going and expanding the property into his neighbor's area, which he tends to go and actually buy the land itself. And it being North Dakota, it's a really windy area, especially in the northern side of town where there isn't that much out there. So he's looking to go and expand it just enough to go and actually put an additional 3 rows of trees around his house to break up the wind. So on the screen now I have current vicinity map, which shows actually the very edge of our jurisdiction to the north and the notification area. Now, this is an aerial view of the property. So in black kind of around the house itself is actually where the boundary is now, and red is where they're going to be expanding out to. For zoning, the property is currently RA, and the area that they're wanting to go take in their property is Ag. So since they can't just have they can't have both on the property at the same time, and due to the minimum size of Ag zoning being 10 acres, this needs to go to just RA, and that's what the applicant has requested. And to the south actually is some C2 zoning. Now, looking at the future land use map, this area is one of those areas that it's outside of the current scope of our future land use map, and we do intend on addressing that in the future. Looking at the kind of zoning of the area, it makes sense for this to stay as RA zoning. Now, so here's a copy of the outlot plat, just once again showing where the boundaries are and where they are going to be extended out to. And so findings of fact on this, the applicant submitted a complete application. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan in that it's not actually out that far. We plan on addressing that when we go have our new comprehensive plan update. That does meet the bulk requirements of the zoning ordinance, and the Planning Commission has the authority to recommend approval or denial of this to the City Council. Findings of fact, staff recommends Planning Commission adopt our findings of fact and recommend approval of this preliminary plat application or outlot application and rezoning subject to the following conditions, and that's no later than 6 months after the subdivision design has been approved by City Council that they go and submit the final. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions for city staff by the commissioners? Questions? With that, I'll open it up for a public hearing. Anybody opposed to this agenda item number 10? Anybody opposed? Anybody for this agenda item number 10? Anybody for or against this item? Seeing or hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Look to a motion.
Commissioner
to
Bauman.
approve based on,
Oh, go ahead.
go for it.
Move to approve based on staff finding and finding of fact and recommendation.
Motion to approve by Commissioner
Second,
Bauman,
Hochhalter.
seconded by Commissioner Hochhalter. Discussion. Any discussion? With that, we'll take a call to roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Coop, Nestle,
Yes.
Alfredall,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion approved. Moving on to agenda item number 11, zoning ordinance, text amendment to chapter 20. Flood protection requirements, public hearing request on an application by Lance Meyer, applicant representing the city of Minot, to amend chapter 20 of the Minot zoning ordinance. Changes include formatting, adjustments clarifying language surrounding structural equipment such as heating, plumbing, and ventilation systems to be elevated at least 1 foot above the base flood elevation, and the addition of a severability clause.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lance here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Essentially, what we're trying to get at with this update to the ordinance is just a few basic things. We follow FEMA's standard floodplain ordinance. The way it's constructed, the language, it's almost identical to what FEMA requires of communities who participate in the National Flood Insurance Program and the Community Rating System, or CRS. So, we take this ordinance pretty seriously. We want to make sure that FEMA and the ISO both approve of changes, because that has a large impact to our community, not only in being able to provide flood insurance for our citizens, but also to have the discounts and flood insurance premiums available to our citizens, because we participate in the CRS program. These changes that we're making, there's a few definition changes. Those have to do with the manufactured home park definitions, the severability definition, and also some language on what a violation means. Those are all standard FEMA boilerplate type of ordinance provisions. They've updated their boilerplate ordinance, so we're kind of doing the same. The other thing that is a new requirement in the community rating system to be eligible for a Class 8 discount, which is a 10% discount in flood insurance premiums if you're in the 100-year floodplain, is you need to specifically state that your mechanical equipment, like your furnace and your air conditioner, your water heater, etc., also needs to be elevated at least 1 foot above base flood elevation. When we review elevation certificates or when we permit new structures, even though the language is not in there, we regulate to this standard already. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to put this provision in black and white. So A, it's more clear to applicants that are wanting to build in or near the floodplain, and 2, it satisfies the ISO's requirement for us to be in this program. We've had both FEMA, the State Water Commission, and the ISO review these text changes. All have said that they're okay with these changes. We are putting this in front of you ahead of the overall zoning ordinance update that Mr. Billingsley in the planning department is working on. Just because time is of the essence, we want to get these changes completed so that when we go through our program audit here in the next month or so, we will be eligible for all those discounts. So it's not, we're not trying to bypass what Brian and his team are working on. It's just a timing thing. So we want to get that in front of the Planning Commission for your review and approval, and onto the City Council so they can do likewise, and we can meet all these timing deadlines that FEMA and the ISO have on us. So essentially that's what we're doing. Nothing major. It's basically putting in black and white what we already regulate and then updating some definitions. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have on this item.
Thank you, Lance. Any questions for city staff or city engineer from the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Bauman. I just want to jump in with a comment and compliment and say thank you, Engineer Meyer and the rest of the planning team, for making sure that this goes through in a timely manner so that we can be eligible for those FEMA discounts and those flood insurance discounts. I just really appreciate your attention to detail, and that is something that yields really positive results for our residents, and making sure that our city and our city government is acting in their behalf at all times. So kudos to you. I've gotten to see the process for the past couple of weeks, and I just think you and your engineering team and the planning team have done a good job. So thanks again for all of your hard work on this.
Certainly, thank you, Commissioner. We put a lot of work into it. Christine Goldadder in our engineering department has done a lot of work on this. So we thank her efforts and others that have contributed to this.
Any other questions for city staff, city engineer? Seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody opposed to this agenda item number 11? Anybody opposed? Anybody for this agenda item? Anybody for or against this agenda item? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Motion to approve based on staff finding of fact and recommendations to approve the text amendment to Chapter 28.
Motion approved by Commissioner Wagnus. Do we have a second? Second by
Commissioner Bauman, second.
Coop beat you to it, Commissioner Bauman.
Oh, you're too fast for me, Todd. Thanks.
Discussion. Any discussion? With that, call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Buchalter,
Yes.
Coop,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Wagonist.
Yes.
All right.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 12 is other business. It doesn't look like we, oh.
One thing, this is Principal Planner John Van Dyke. I was just going to invite all of you to attend the, I guess it'd be the second annual North Dakota Planning Association Planning and Zoning Commissioner Training. It'll be November 18th, and it's going to be offered virtually. Typically, we would hold it at our annual conference, which we're not necessarily holding in person. So I will send that link out to you. Even if you have the opportunity to just have it going on in the background while you're doing other things at work, that's great. I mean, there might be some things that pop up, and I even going through the process, I'm one of the ones that presents and does the training. It's just to go over various aspects, whether it is Y plan, or the zoning ordinances, conditional use permits, variances, various other aspects that are quite common to pop up here, and the purpose behind it. It's definitely of value. I can guarantee you'll pull at least 1 or 2 nuggets of good information that are applicable to this process. And so definitely welcome you. I'll send that information directly to you, and feel free to share it with anyone. It's open to all that are involved in the process. And yeah, that's it. So
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Any other business?
Good job tonight, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Seeing that, I'll look for a motion for adjournment. Or we'll just adjourn, right? We don't, just adjourn. Meeting adjourned.